Thank you, Nellie. Glenn, thank you so much. Glenn is actually, I didn't intend to say this, but he's also someone who saved my life too. Because after I blew the whistle at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, as you know, the government goes after you. And in that case, they decide that they're going to, in my case, there was a death squad. They tried to kidnap my daughter. I mean, it was all kinds of real crazy stuff going on in my life. And I looked forward to Black Agenda Report every Wednesday, like a kid looks forward to Christmas. I mean, it was a spiritual life that I needed to keep going, quite frankly, in a very, very, very difficult situation. So, thank you so much for the work that you've done all these years. Thank you for providing a place for people like me to write and to think and to have a community around me. So thank you so much. My spirit led me to write a tribute to Bruce Dixon. So in 1965, a Ghanaian revolutionary, Amilcar Cabral, wrote in a party directive, "Hide nothing from the masses of our people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures, and claim no easy victories." I think that defines BAR. What do you think? I think that defines BAR. Our brother, comrade Bruce Dixon, grew up within the contradictions of American society. Political violence directed towards Africans was conveniently disguised and renamed as segregation in order to hide the ugly face of American apartheid in urban areas including Chicago and Detroit, where Bruce and I grew up respectively. Violence against Black people, organic to the very fiber of American society, was sugar-coated as a nation in search of the perfect union. This American illusion, always looming in the narrative and spoken by Negro and white politicians, determined to create a reality that had no material basis, created the perfect intellectual storm to create Bruce Dixon. He would not tolerate or concede to the lies and mischaracterizations presented to him during his youth. No, Bruce would take the road less traveled and fight for the national liberation of Black people here and abroad. As noted, Bruce joined the Black Panther Party in Chicago, Illinois. He worked with Fred Hampton, chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party and deputy chairman of the National Black Panther Party. Bruce was 18 years old when Hampton, 21 years old, was viciously murdered by Chicago police and the FBI after they raided his home at 4:45 on the morning of December 4th, 1969. Police fired 100 rounds, mostly directed towards Hampton's bedroom. Hampton's personal bodyguard, William O'Neill, had drawn a floor plan of the house for the police. O'Neill was paid $300 by the FBI after he betrayed Hampton. Bruce was aware that both inside and outside of the movement, there were enemies that needed to be exposed. For Bruce, tolerating racial duplicity was not an option. He was equally aware that the man kneeling beside the body of Martin Luther King Jr., making sure that he was dead on that Memphis balcony, was one Merrill McCaw, an undercover police officer who had infiltrated King's Circle. But it wouldn't be until 1974 that we would learn that McCaw worked for the CIA. So Bruce experienced the complexity of American politics from an early age. Simplistic analysis based solely on race would not suffice. Bruce knew that the Chicago Black Panther Party was completely infiltrated by police, just as I knew, and Glenn Ford can attest, that he knew as well, that the Detroit and New Jersey chapters of the Black Panther Party were also infiltrated. It was clear that our young lives depended on successfully navigating the complexity of this military state. The knowledge that there were guns between us and any sort of future somehow clarified our analysis. During America's assault on Vietnam, Bruce became an anti-war activist. He worked within the Black community to educate young people whom Uncle Sam was once again shelling disproportionately into the open pit of his war machine against joining the military and resisting the draft. There's no doubt Bruce saved hundreds of lives. Cabral said, "We will not shout hurrahs or claim here our solidarity with this or that struggle. Our presence is itself a cry of condemnation of imperialism and a proof of solidarity with all peoples who want to banish from their country the imperialist yoke, and in particular with the heroic people of Vietnam. But we firmly believe that the best proof we can give of our anti-imperialist position and of our active solidarity with our comrades in this common struggle is to return to our countries to further develop this struggle and to remain faithful to the principles and objectives of national liberation." This is what Bruce did. He told me that he met Vietnamese soldiers during a visit to Cuba, and he was brought to tears thinking that he could have raised a gun against them. In 2016, Bruce, Glenn, Nellie, and I traveled to Oakland, California to celebrate the founding of the Black Panther Party. Bruce and I were comparing notes one day when he asked me how old I was when I joined the party. I told him I was 14 or 15. He looked at me and said, "Well, I was a bit older, but what we didn't realize was that the United States war against the Black Panther Party was actually a war against children." The war that started in the 15th century by European nation states against African kingdoms, generally called the slave trade by European and American historians, was also a war against Africa's children. An enduring lesson that I learned in the party was that the motive and basis of our struggle, at its very core, was love of our community. No challenge could be too difficult to overcome. No sacrifice was too great, including sacrificing our lives to fight for our people. Bruce exemplified this truth throughout his political career, from the Black Panther Party to Black Commentator to Black Agenda Report in the Green Party. He poured his love, organizing skills, and enormous intellectual abilities into educating and organizing the Black community. When the Black community went on a sugar high in celebrating the Obama presidency, Bruce and our Black Agenda Report team devoted its considerable talents to telling the truth and not claiming easy and unfounded victories. Again, Bruce understood Cabral saying, "Always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for ideas, for the things in anyone's head. They're fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, to see their lives go forward, to guarantee the future of their children." My last conversation with Bruce centered on my current struggle to stop the desecration of an African burial ground in Bethesda, Maryland. Bruce remains indispensable in helping me understand the struggle for land. This burial ground sits in the center of a business district that is among the wealthiest communities in America, perhaps the world, Montgomery County. And Montgomery County is committed, I dare say dedicated, to perpetuating lies about its history and distorting the contributions of Africans during so-called slavery. This cemetery was used as a mass grave to dump African bodies, broken by terror, torture, and industrial-scale, state-sanctioned rape for the business of, quote, breeding Negro stock for sale and distribution to only God knows where. But this is also the area where Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad was active. As Warrior Tubman said, speaking of President Lincoln, they didn't free us, we freed ourselves. Ashe. Bruce always provided support, advice, and shared lessons from his activism, encouraging me. He used his voice, his writings, his organizational skills to fight the forces of reaction, imperialism, and white supremacy. But here I'd like to stop and just take a moment to cherish what I love most about Bruce, his abundance. There's an African-American proverb that says, still waters run deep. This was never better displayed than on the day I told him of my brother-in-law's fight against cancer, the same cancer that Bruce was so valiantly fighting. His abundance brought him to visit my brother-in-law the next day and to offer his knowledge, his experience, and his love. This was to Bruce Dixon I knew until he passed, not away, but into the future, within me, within all of you, and within everyone he continues to touch. So to that I say, power to the people. Power to the people. Long live the spirit of Fred Hampton. Long live the spirit of Fred Hampton. And long live the spirit of Bruce Dixon. Ashe.